Okay, my name's Dana Lieberman. I own Bent Up Cycles, which is a specialty recumbent shop out in Los Angeles. I've been doing this 20 years, started in my garage, and now I got a store. I also own Bacchetta Bikes. We bought Bacchetta Bikes a little over 2 years ago. And I'm gonna be helping you guys out here. Here's Paul Hollins from HP Velotechnic. If you have a problem, don't call him. No, seriously. Actually, they were my first recumbent manufacturer after I moved out of the garage. I had a customer that wanted a street machine. I had no idea what this even was, and so I talked to, it probably wasn't you, I think it was Kirk Seifert at the time. And we got this beautiful street machine, and which is that orange one right there. I was like, this is an amazing bike. And now it's been 20 years, kind of like an old married couple. Yeah. Who lives in different continents. So, we're good, Mark, yeah, okay. We're good. We've also got Tim Fricker here. Tim owns bikes in Vienna near Washington, D.C. That's about as close as I can get.
Yeah, Vienna, Virginia. So
yes. We've got Mel, where's Mel? You all met Mel. Mel owns Recumbent PDX up in Portland. So I think we've got most of the corners covered in the country except Florida. But Bacchetta used to be in Florida. So my goal here today, when I opened my shop 20 years ago, you wouldn't know it by looking at this show, but trikes didn't exist, right? It was all two-wheeled recumbents, and then you had this weird company called Greenspeed that was doing trikes. And over the years, we've watched the evolution of the recumbent industry, but again, you'd think it's all trikes now, and we still love our two-wheelers, and we love getting people on two-wheeled bikes. And so I wanted to spend a little bit of time in front of you guys just talking a little bit about two-wheelers and what they are. What I'm gonna do here, I'm gonna show you some of the different two-wheelers that are on the market. We're not gonna spend a lot of time in here. I don't wanna bore you guys. We're gonna get out and go riding. How many people here have ridden two-wheeled recumbents before? Okay, so we've got some experienced people here. Okay, great. So we're gonna get out and I'm gonna get you on them. I can guarantee you today there've been more accidents on trikes than two-wheelers out on the test track, right? So yeah, they're easy to ride. They're fun to ride. You still get to carve your turns, right? Just like you do on your old 10-speed as you're going down the mountain at 20, 30, 50 miles an hour. I love two-wheelers. I've done lots of racing, lots of touring, lots of everything on two-wheeled recumbents. And so for me to be able to share that excitement that's just what I love doing. So having you guys here wanting to learn about two-wheeled, boy, that's great. So I'm just gonna go through a couple different iterations. Some people aren't here. I thought Cruise Bike was gonna bring some of their bikes out. Maybe they'll be here in a few minutes. As you saw, the show we were not expecting this zoo. So they may just be caught up, but also I'll start with some of the other ones. Sort of your classic, recumbent, two-wheel recumbents come in two configurations. There's a short wheelbase bike. This is where your crankset is out in front of the front wheel. And then you've got, well here, I'm not gonna focus just on Bacchetta. You've got your long wheelbase bike, right? Here's a Sun Easy Sport. I think it's the AX, if that's what they still call it. The big difference here being that the front wheel is out in front of the cranks. What that does is it lowers the crankset, makes it a little bit easier to ride for a lot of people, especially us shorter riders. When we're up on a high racer, sorry, I hurt my knee a couple weeks ago. It's hard to get your feet way up there. So this keeps your feet nice and low, very easy, very much just a cruiser bike, okay? So then with those different kinds of bikes, you got different configurations. And I'm sorry that Paul didn't bring the traditional street machine, which is under-seat steering. As you can see, all of these bikes have above-seat steering, so it's more like your traditional steering wheel on a bike, above the seat. And then you can also get them, again, under-seat steering is where the steering would be here. So for example, even the speed machine is available with under-seat steering. The street machine, by default, comes with under-seat steering. This is actually an upgrade. And the handlebars are on the side. So it's kind of like flying a jet. You got this big open, there's nothing in front of you. It's rather freeing, and some people find it a little too overwhelming. But those are the big differences.
What do you ride?
I ride all of them. No, so seriously, I love fast bikes. I'm not as fast as I used to be, but I have a Carbonero. Look, I own Bacchetta. Before I owned Bacchetta, I used to build my own carbon fiber recumbents. Maybe you've heard of Carbent. I think there was one, Joe Pixley had his floating around here. It was an ultralight carbon. They were handmade, each bike one at a time in our shop. So I really like the two-wheeled, short wheelbase, high racer designs. They're fast. To me, I don't have the neck and back problems, so being really reclined, to me, it's like sleeping, right? In fact, it's so funny, you get the people pull up next to you and they, hey, cool bike, and I frequently look at them, God, you woke me up, right? So I don't have anything here with the hard shell seats. This is about as close as we can get to a hard shell seat. This is a mesh style seat in the same shape as a hard shell. Right, so you can see where this one sits more upright, makes it a lot easier to get your feet on the ground. This particular seat has cutouts so that, again, it's easy to get your feet on the ground. This is designed to be more reclined. What that does is it's taking the weight off of your glutes and spreading it across your back so that you don't have any of those pressure points, okay? This is not the first bike that I would put somebody on, right? This is getting a little bit more extreme with the higher bottom bracket, right? Because of the large wheel, just lifts up the front end. I'll tell you, the street machine with underseat steering is the easiest bike in my shop to ride. It is a $5,000 bike, and I have no problems putting newbies on it because I know they're not going to dump it.
Which bike's it?
The street machine.
Oh, really?
And with underseat steering. I actually hate it with above seat steering. It's not designed for that. So underseat steering takes a lot more engineering, in terms of design, and so that may steer people away from it a bit. But yeah, they're still around. Linear still does an underseat bike. That's about all I can think of, yeah. So I'm assuming everybody here who just wants to try a bike is not going to be concerned about aerodynamics, and this is not a performance bike seminar. Right, that's not what we're talking about. I'm assuming you guys just want to get out and ride, maybe do some light touring, maybe just go out for recreational rides and enjoy being back on a bike again. Most of the people that come in, you've got neck issues, you've got hand issues, you've got back issues. For me, I was getting numb hands and a numb groin, right? And that's what turned me off to regular bikes. I don't call it a sore butt, that's a euphemism, right? It's really you can't feel between your legs, whether you're a man or a woman. So that's what turned me on to recumbents. But yeah, if you've got neck problems and back problems, depending on where the problem is, will determine whether a reclined seat will work for you. In some cases, like if you've got lower back issues, sitting on this really upright seat is not going to be good for you because that compression is going right down your spine. If you have upper neck issues, it's going to be great. You're not going to notice it because you're sitting like you're sitting in a car. It's the exact opposite for these laid back seats, right? It's going to feel so comfortable if you've got lower back issues because you've taken all of the pressure off of the back. But if you've got upper neck issues, it could be problematic. You could address some of that with a headrest. So when I first started, I love going fast and I love carving down turns in the descents. You just don't get the same feel on a three-wheeler. If you're living in a very congested urban environment, being up higher on the two-wheeler is going to give you a better view of traffic around you, and the traffic's going to have a better view of you, right? So in terms of safety, certainly a two-wheeler can be more safe. The trikes generally are more expensive, right? So you can get a lot more bike for your buck with a two-wheeler. Those are kind of in no particular order. And that's why so many shops put people on trikes, because You don't have to think about it. You just sit down and you tell them, make sure you lean into the turn, and off you go. There's no learning curve. And so, quite frankly, from a sales perspective, it's a much easier sell, right? And it's not like they're not fun. The trikes are a hoot to ride. It's a little three-wheeled, pedal-powered go-kart. Who's not gonna have fun on that? But the two-wheelers can also be a lot of fun.
It's more like a diamond frame.
Yeah. If you're riding with a group of cyclists, right, you're not going to keep up with them on a trike unless you've got electric assist. If they're riding any kind of reasonable speed on one of these, you will. And realize I say that, you know, just like regular bikes, you know, on the beach cruiser you wouldn't, but if you're on a more performance-oriented bike, you would. There's the equivalent of beach cruisers and recumbents, and then there's the performance bikes, and there's everything in between. So I'm making very general statements, so please understand that. There's a lot of interesting frame dynamics that go into that. This is the smaller frame, so yeah, this front end doesn't move. I don't know if you guys can see here. The HP Velotechnic bikes have a seat that stays stationary, and the way you adjust for different riders is you slide this in and out, right? The way the Sun bikes and the Bacchetta work is the opposite. The crank stays in one position, and the seat moves back and forth, and in some cases, like the Bacchetta, you have different sizes, right? So on this design, you're gonna be less likely to have that issue because you're gonna be pushing the pedals further away from that front wheel if you're taller. This one, yeah, because this is so short, because this is designed for people my size and under, yeah, it's pretty close. I remember when I first got my first recumbent, it was a Rans V-Rex. Got it from the hostel shop, right? Back before I was a dealer. Very similar to this bike, and it took me about 2 weeks before I stopped clipping my heels on the front wheel. And then it started raining, and I'd finally gotten used to it, but I had to put mud guards on. Well, what do mud guards do? They effectively increase the diameter of your wheel, and I was back to hitting my heels until I relearned. On a traditional bike, you hit your toes on them if you don't know what you're doing. Right? We've just all ridden them so long that we don't think about it at all. We just, our body knows where it needs to be. I'm an avid environmentalist. I really recycle, and what I really recycle a lot of is jokes. So I'm sorry, because we're in a group, you may hear me using the same lines over and over again. But Tim, I'm sure you do this too when you're starting people. The goal is we want you as relaxed as possible. I want to see you guys laughing, because if I see you pull off and your elbows are up like this, that means you're tense. And the last thing you want is to be tense on a two-wheeled bike. You've been riding a traditional bike. Talk about latecomers. We're done, and I even know him. That's Chad. They came all the way out from Los Angeles just to see us. So he's already heard this spiel at my shop. But you know, on a traditional bike, you're down here, or maybe you're up here, but you got weight on your handlebars. And now you're on this crazy bike where there's no weight on your handlebars. And so what do? You want to grip it with a death grip. Don't. Just be nice and loose. You're not going to dump it. I'm telling you, more accidents on three-wheelers than two-wheelers out here today. Right? Not one of my bikes has been laid down today. The only one I've heard of, I heard somebody dump the speed machine because they were trying to go through the turns and they just didn't know how to do it. So let's get out and ride.